Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Gospel Station Sports and Talk. This is Luke Young calling in live from the good old town of Tuttle, Oklahoma. We are here at 4 o'clock p.m. for our Friday night football game day show, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, we've been looking forward to this one all week. We're also live on Facebook, by the way, Gospel Station Sports and Talk, and thank you for tuning in there if you are. The venue for our show today is Taco Mayo out here in Tuttle, 101 East Main Street. Call them at 405-381-3124. They're open 10:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock midnight. Today they'll be open after the Tuttle football game that I'll be out here for, so I may stop back and get me some food on the way home. Coming into this show, I actually got a little bit of food that I kind of demolished before we went live. I opted for the taco salad this time, so usually I get my quesadillas, but I thought I'd switch it up. I thought I'd get something different on the menu. Taco Mayo has a bunch of different stuff on the menu. Speaking of combo meals, number 1 through number 9, they've got burritos, nachos, bowls. They've even got a taco burger up there, which you can get if you're in the mood for that. Again, I got the taco salad. But they've also got the classic value menu. You can choose 4 or more for a dollar. I think that says 99. I got to throw on my glasses here. Hold on a second, folks. They're a little foggy, but they'll help me see. For a dollar, I think that's an 8.89. You can get anything from a taco to burritos to chips to just drinks. Mexican rice is up there too. The classic on the menu. Grilled food, salads and bowls, chips and dips. They got all right here at Taco Mayo. And again, thank you so much to Taco Mayo for supporting the show and hosting our game day show today. We've got an hour of content coming at you right here, and it's going to be a good one. So I'll wave at the Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Thank you for tuning in. I hope everybody's enjoying. Football happening, of course. It is Friday, so tons of football happening around the state on September 5th. Everything from Class C and up we'll be covering right here on this game day show. Of course, Bethany High School on a bye week this week, so we don't get to talk about the Broncos. But Tuttle football is not on a bye week. They are here at home versus Newcastle. And we will get into all of that a little bit later on. What I want to talk about first, though, speaking of game day shows, I keep seeing College Game Day, y'all getting set up in Norman at Oklahoma for the big OU-Michigan game. So let's talk about a little bit of the college stuff before we really hit the bulk of the show and discuss all our high school sports. OU-Michigan happening tomorrow, I believe it is, going to be the biggest game of week number 2 of college football without a doubt. If you don't watch another game, watch OU-Michigan. It's going to be a tight one. Some people are giving Michigan the win as the underdog. Some people are going with the hometown Sooners. Me, personally, I'm going with Oklahoma. Now, I mean, I know that's a big surprise to everybody as I sit here wearing red from Oklahoma. Talked about the Sooners on just about every show we've been on. No, that's a big surprise, but I'm going with OU. Hopefully we're going to get Jaden Ott back there. We're going to see what he can really do from the backfield. But either way, it's going to be a great show. Did you know Trey Young is coming in to be the guest picker on College Game Day? He's joining the crew, McAfee, Saban, all the guys up there. Trey Young, a hometown hero in his own right, an Oklahoma legend, traveling in. I don't know actually where he lives in the summer when the basketball is in the off season, but it's still going to be very cool to see him on TV and see what elite ball knowledge he drops on us, if you will. I don't have really a score prediction for you here. I think that game will actually be pretty close, though. I'm not expecting more than a one-possession victory for Oklahoma. I think Mateer has the arm and the firepower to really dice up Michigan's secondary. They're both going to get tested on both sides, though. So if they do win, maybe a touchdown, maybe if they're lucky, a touchdown and a field goal, but I'm not expecting much more than that. If you were watching the NFL last night, that was also kicked off with Dallas at Philadelphia. It was better football than I was expecting. I'll give it up to him. It was better than I was expecting, but the end result was the exact same as what I expected, if we're being completely honest. Dallas lost 24-20 in Philadelphia. It was a close game. They had multiple chances to win it. They just couldn't get it done. Of course, the story of the game I'll say there were two stories kind of. I'll pull up some of them here. The first that comes to my mind is CD's drops. Very unlike him, but it is just the unfortunate reality, something you got to let it go, move on. You got to put it behind you, and that's about all you can do at that situation. But let's go ahead and talk about maybe the actual big news of that game was Jalen Carter getting ejected before Dallas even took its first snap for spitting on Dak Prescott. I mean, just ridiculous. Of all I don't even care that he thought Dak was spitting at him and talking trash. Why? Why would you do that? I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Cowboys fan myself, but I'm still saying, why would you do that in week one, a rivalry game on your home field when you're trying to repeat as champions against a team that has historically played well in Philadelphia, and you're supposed to be one of the lead edge rushers, one of the lead pass rushers. You're going to go ahead and get yourself taken out? What are we doing? It just made no sense to me, but I guess it didn't matter too much in the end as Dallas lost by 4, of course. CD got targeted a lot. You know who didn't get targeted a lot was George Pickens, the new pickup from Dallas this year. Being the 2 to CD's 1, we were expecting him to see maybe not as many targets, obviously, but a lot of catch attempts. He was only targeted, I think, 4 times, maybe 6. He was not targeted much, which was bad news for me, not just for fantasy football, but because I actually think he's going to have a good year. But we got to wait another week to see what happens with Pickens. It's okay. I mean, I'm sure he'll be all right. Trust me, I believe that. On the offensive side for Philadelphia, Jalen Hurts was very highly rated. I think he had an 88 quarterback rating by the end of the night to Dak's 90. Played very well. They got a lot of good work out of Saquon. They actually didn't target A.J. Brown like at all until like the fourth quarter maybe before he got his first catch, which was ridiculous. But once they got it to him, they were able to spread out the passing game. They had a few big runs here and there. The tush push worked extremely well again, as we all know it does. But it was the defense for both teams that was really the key points, the key question marks, if you will. Philadelphia didn't have an especially great linebacking group. Their cornerbacks, they didn't start their normal guys. DeJean did come in the game a little bit later, but they didn't start their, number one cornerbacks. The linebacker play was a little rough. They didn't have that really elite edge rusher, I'd say, but they were able to get it done. On Dallas, on the other hand, again, unable to stop the run. We could talk about still losing Micah Parsons all this time. We could. But the bright spot for Dallas was their own secondary. Trayvon Diggs and Duron Bland coming back playing week one, and they were lights out against Philly. And that was very good for me to see because if we aren't going to be able to stop the run, we need to at least be able to stop the pass. And last night they stopped the pass and gave us a chance. More NFL action coming at you today as the league keeps going. I think it's the Chiefs playing tonight, if I remember correctly. I'll pull up the scores and schedule real quick. The Chiefs and Chargers play today at 7 p.m. Kansas City is, of course, the favorite. They are in California, so Chiefs traveling to L.A. That's the game tonight. I personally probably won't be watching that one. Buffalo-Baltimore is the game I'm going to be watching, mainly besides Dallas. But another game that has just started. Day 2 of the Bethany High School softball tournament is live. They've been going since 10 a.m. this morning, and finally Bethany Broncos are playing versus Kearney here. They should have just started if they're not running behind. Currently 2-0 in the tournament. They had a pair of back-to-back run rule victories, so congrats to the Lady Broncos on day 1. This is the only game they play on day 2, and then we come back for the championship tomorrow. So we'll see how good I'll be able to get back out there tomorrow on Saturday and call that championship game if they do grab the win versus Kearney today. I don't know what the records from the other bracket are, the other pool play. I think it's 3-3. It might be 4-4. But you've got teams like Guthrie, the OKC Broncos, Pauls Valley, Crossings Christian, so it is 4-4 in the second group. I don't know what the records are for them, but I'll find it out before tomorrow as we see what those rankings are later tonight. So if you're in the mood for some softball, you can also tune in to the Bethany High School softball tournament that is happening right now. They carry that on Game Changer, and we'll be giving you updates as they happen. I'll actually pull up my own Game Changer right now and see if they do have a score started. Let's see here. Home game versus Kearney Bulldogs. Doesn't look like the game has begun. There's no one scoring it. So I'll keep an eye on it and, again, give you updates as we go. We're coming back into this game day show. What we're doing on the Gospel Station revolves mainly around Bethany, yes, but we're also looking to expand. Of course, we've been doing Tuttle football for a while, but there's also the Midwest schools that are happening right now. Carl Albert, again, looks like the number one team in 5A football. They're expecting to have another great year after winning the state championships last year. So see what Carl Albert, again, they graduated a lot of people, but they brought in a really strong freshman class. And, of course, they kept a lot of people as well. They kept some pretty big players, and even if they lost a lot of skill positions, I'll go through it and read the article for you here in a second. This was an article posted by Heather Westoff in August of this year. She says, and I quote, "No one will have any difficulty remembering the Titans of 2024. Carl Albert emphatically added the 19th gold ball to its overflowing trophy case. The Titans must replace a boatload of skill athletes that have departed from the next level of football, but the good news is that they have offensive and defensive line personnel returning in bunches that establish Carl Albert as the top dog, once again in Class 5A. And that seems to be the case. She's predicting an undefeated season for Carl Albert. And again, wouldn't I can't say I'd be too surprised if the Titans go on and surpass that somehow. They'd find a way to get 14 wins in a 13-game season, right? They start today versus Midwest City. They are on the road. That kicks off at 7 p.m., same time as this Tuttle game tonight. So if you want to see how the defending 5A state champs kick off their season, Carl Albert, Midwest City, right there, pretty much in the same city. So it's a little bit of a rivalry kicking off their season. That's your look out in Midwest. Another big game happening tonight is, I think it's tonight at least. Let me go ahead and double check on that. It is tonight. Mustang varsity football and Yukon varsity football meeting up in Mustang to play a rivalry game of their own. Yukon kind of had a surprise victory in their own Week 0 matchup. They were able to clutch it out, and now they're going to travel down south and try to make it a 2-game win streak. I'm very excited to keep up with this one as well. We've got a lot of games we need to keep up with if you haven't figured that out already. Mustang has not played their first match, I do not believe. So this will be the first game of their season. We'll get a chance to see what Mustang is bringing out this year. Of course, on their home turf, I can't imagine they're going to roll over lightly, folks. I think we're going to see a pretty tough battle there as well. Yukon, of course, with that 1-0, I'll pull up some of their stats here. They had 263 yards rushing and 131 yards passing in their Week 0 victory. They totaled almost 400 yards between both. They had 45 tackles and a sack. The offense was schmoving, especially on the run game. Having almost over 250 yards on the ground is very, very good for a team that many were writing off in Week 0. We'll see if they can continue that success. I'd like to see them get a few more sacks in this game, try and pressure that quarterback a little bit more. I think that'll go a long way to defeating Mustang in this game. Of course, whichever team you're looking for, it's just going to be the opposite. Hey, if you're rooting for Mustang, then you hope they don't get to the quarterback, and they don't find any pressure. And that's the fun part of football, is right. This game day show broadcasts to both sides, so you get both sides of the argument, I guess you could say. I'm not sure who Mustang is starting under center this year. We'll have to find out a little bit later today. Looking at their roster right now, and it looks like the first man up is senior quarterback Jaden O'Neal, who I believe is going to be their starter. Pretty sure I have that right. I'll try and go back and see some old news here before we start this Tuttle game tonight and catch you up on it. But there are a few games from around the state, okay? We're mostly looking at the higher classifications, yes, but that is because these are games that need to be watched. Mustang, Yukon, Carl Albert, Midwest City, and right here tonight, Tuttle versus Newcastle on Tuttle's home field, Richardson Family Stadium. We're going to send it to a little bit of a break here. We got some commercials, and then when we come back, we'll kind of start to dig in to this high school talk and see more about what's happening around the state as well. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Game Day Show, the Friday Football Game Day Show on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk. This is Luke Young out at Taco Mayo here in Tuttle, Oklahoma. The address is 101 East Main Street. Call them at 405-381-3121. Great tasting food, an affordable menu. I had their taco salad myself. I can attest. So listen to a break here. We'll be back in just a few. Perfect. Okay. Thank you to everybody that is tuning in on Facebook and is sending the likes our way. Hope you're enjoying the show. We're going to keep going for about 45 more minutes here, and we'll talk some more high school football. I'm really planning to dig into this Tuttle Newcastle game as we get into the second half of the show. So if you are very invested in the Tigers versus the Racers, stick around till then. That'll be right after this segment happening around 4:30. Still got a 2 minute break here. Gonna run pretty decently sized breaks here to make sure everybody's getting their time on air. You know what I'm saying? Hey, we're at Taco Mayo, 101 East Main Street out in Tuttle. Come by and see me. Come by and pick up that great Mexican food, and it's very cheap, cheaper than a lot of restaurants around, which is always a nice spot. I'm back here in a booth, so you can come say hi. And if you're listening on the Facebook, send your opinions, your takes through chat, whether they're on the NFL games, the college games coming up, or these high school games tonight. Go ahead and show me what's up. Tell me if my takes are bad. Tell me if my takes are good. I'll debate you either way, you know. So we still got a little bit longer on this break. Stick around. And we are back live from Tuttle, Oklahoma on the Friday Night Football Game Day show here on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk. We are live from Taco Mayo 101 East Main Street. Go to the website tacomayo.com and browse their menu. Their contact phone number is 405 381 3124 out here in Tuttle. And if you're in the area listening to the show, come by and see me. I'm set up in a booth out here. You can pull a seat up. I'll talk to you on air. You can tell me if my takes are good. You can tell me if my takes are bad. And we'll talk a little college and high school football. Well, I mentioned the NFL. I mentioned the college stuff going on now. Of course, there's plenty of other sports, but we're going to focus in here on football. Of course, unfortunately, even Bethany on a bye week this week, or else I'd love to keep up with that team and tell you what's going on. They had a nice win at Noble on the road, but again, this week off. Again, John Hickman, John Campbell usually calling those games, unable to get any work for them this year, or this week. It's kind of weird not having them around, but I'm still keeping an eye on that softball game, by the way. I don't think it started either they're scoring the wrong game here or they never quit live or never hit end live on the last one. Because right now it says Cassidy versus Cassidy is live, and I don't think that's right. I don't think that's very right at all. But I'll yeah, worry about that later. I don't know what they got going on over there. All right, let's talk about this football game that we're all out here for in Tuttle. The 1-0 Tuttle Tigers taking on the 1-0 Newcastle Racers. It's a 4A 5A matchup just like week 1 was. Tuttle the 4A team, Newcastle the 5A. Tuttle knocked off the 5A Guthrie Blue Jays last week in the pretty convincing win. I got to be honest, it was not bad at all. The final was 38-13. Cruz Camel went 22 for 32, throwing for 279 yards and a touchdown. And of course, the run game was also very good for the Tigers. And that is why I'm expecting this to be a fairly high-scoring game tonight. I'm not expecting this to be 7-14, 14-17. I'm expecting this to get 20s or higher once again. Because we've also seen that Newcastle has a pretty tough offense. They're going to go out and test this secondary, and we'll dig into why in just a bit. But looking at just the general overview, 5A Newcastle defeated 6A Bartlesville 51-34 in their own Week 0 matchup. Their quarterback, Blake Cresswell, threw for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he got a lot of help from his ground game as well. Caden Longman had a long catch of had a total of 141 yards, not a long of 141 yards. That's not possible. But he had 2 receiving touchdowns on 7 receptions. So they've got a strong pass game. Again, we think they're going to really test this Tuttle Tigers secondary today. And if you are going to watch listen, you'll have to watch on Tuttle TV, but you can listen right here on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk on Live 365. Then we'll tell you all about it as we keep up with those guys. This week, I think it's the last home game, if I'm remembering correctly. This week is the last home game for Tuttle before they go onto the road for a little bit. Some other games happening around the state right now. A 4A duel between Ada and Ardmore. And pretty much all of these, by the way, set to kick off at 7 p.m. Ada and Ardmore are playing. 2A Atoka taking on single A Ringling. Barnesdale and Oklahoma Union are getting going. Bartlesville and Claremore, the team that just lost to Newcastle back for week 2. They'll have another 6A, 5A matchup, try to get back in the win column. Bishop Kelly and Bishop McGinnis. Some teams, actually Bishop McGinnis is a team we keep up with for the other Bethany sports that we follow here on the Gospel Station. We'll see how their football team shakes out this year. Broken Arrow is taking on Fayetteville. Broken Bow is taking on Durant. Some more happening around the state. Let's go down a little bit. I already talked about Carl Albert and Midwest City. Carl Albert, the defending state champs on the 5A side. One of the games you're absolutely going to want to keep an eye on. We got a bunch more, and I mean a bunch more. One game that's already completed was single A Cordell against Class C Fox, with Fox getting the win, 46-26. Nice little 20-point victory for the smaller school there. You always love to see that. Del City is facing BT Washington. That's the other Midwest city out there playing tonight. Of course, we got a few more. Duncan and Cash, Edison Prep and Hilldale. Edmond Memorial and Deer Creek should be a very good game. But the other Edmond schools are playing tonight as well. Edmond North has Edmond Santa Fe. And a little bit of a rivalry, I guess, there themselves. I have to wonder for all these teams, like you say, the Putnam City Northwest Original, do they all have like a three-way rivalry going? Does that count for the the Edmond schools too? Memorial, North, Santa Fe? Do they have like a three-way triangle rivalry going where they all get the better of one or the other? That's pretty funny. I like seeing those. The good storylines get built up that way. Enid and Lawton set to face off. Fairland and Commerce down on the lower classifications. Fairview and Kingston doing that 2A thing as well. Garber and Drumright, two Class B teams duking it out. Fort Gibson has Berry Hill at 7. 2A Hugo taking on 2A Valiant later on today. Enola and Adair also playing as well. Lindsay and Purcell. The Purcell Dragons are a team we saw in the heart of Oklahoma softball tournament not too long ago. Now we'll get a chance to see how their own football season shakes out. They didn't have too bad of a softball team either, although they weren't able to win their own tournament. Just another team to keep an eye on for us personally. Kingfisher and Weatherford playing tonight. 3A versus 4A in different classes in football. Going down the list here, and by the way, I'm not going to give you predictions on every single one of these because, one, there's way too many, and one, my co-commentator Bryson Colwell is not with us today, which is so sad, so unfortunate. Very sorely missing his presence here on the football broadcast, and the worst part is he's going to miss next week as well. So you're stuck with me alone for 2 more weeks here, counting this one before Bryson does come back, and we eagerly await his return, that is for sure. Tahlequah and Sapulpa playing on the higher classifications. Sulphur and Washington football getting going. Sulphur's a 3A, Washington 2A. Washington has a brand new football field, by the way, that we saw when we were out there for that softball tournament. Super nice, beautiful turf in a brand new, huge, wide stadium. If that is at Washington, by the way, if you can make it down for that one, they have a great environment down there. From what I've heard, they get fans coming out for every game, and when they always go to the postseason, they line up down the rows, signs, horns, everything in between, cheering on the teams. Great environment down in Washington. Watts and Cave Springs playing in the lower classifications as well. You've also got Waurika and Temple, Wayne and Stratford in both Class A's. As we get to the bottom of it, I'll remind you, Yukon and Mustang in one of the biggest games of the night is playing in Mustang. That is kicking off at 7 p.m. Mustang in their first game of the season taking on Yukon, who's coming off of a big upset victory. And I think it was pretty close, too. Oh, no, they beat them by 13. That's right, 2 possessions. Yukon beat Putnam City Original 48-35. They've got Mustang on the road, Sapulpa on the road, and Westmore on the road before the Millers finally return home against Broken Arrow, getting to start their district play. We'll see how far they can keep that win streak going if they are able to get a win in Mustang tonight. Mustang's own schedule again starts with Yukon, but they have another home game versus 2A Marlowe. Then they're on the road for Broken Arrow and Jinx before returning home for Edmond North on the second game of their district schedule. People are lining up outside going through the drive-thru here at Taco Mayo, and for very good reason because it's great Mexican food here. 101 East Main Street out in Tuttle, Oklahoma. Call them 405-381-3124. They're open until midnight tonight. They accept credit cards, contactless payments, and if you are in the Tuttle area watching this football game, stop by after. You may even see me after the broadcast coming back down here. But it's a great food for after a football game, that is for sure. Nowhere else you're going to want to be. Thank you so much to Taco Mayo for supporting the show and hosting tonight, being our venue. It's a great environment. I've been sitting here in this little dining area. I've got a nice little booth in the corner. If you're watching on the Facebook, Gospel Station Sports and Talk, you can see my cup here. I've got the Taco Mayo branding here, the product placement, if you will. It's on deck. So we love it here. Thanks to Taco Mayo. Again, they've got a large menu between the burritos, the nachos, the tacos, the enchiladas, and the my personal favorite, the quesadillas. But I did get a taco salad today. I do branch out a little bit sometimes. Not often, but sometimes. The Bethany High School softball game has officially started versus the Kearney Varsity Bulldogs. For those that have been keeping up on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk, this is ex-Bethany coach Dalton Herrera's return to Bethany this weekend and his first game facing the Broncos since he left the team to take that head coaching role down at Kearney. So we'll see how his Lady Bulldogs match up against the Lady Broncos that are coming off of back-to-back run rule victories in their own tournament. I'll be keeping up with that score right here on the Friday Night Football Game Day Show, broadcast live from Tuttle, Oklahoma at Taco Mayo. We're going to send it to a break here. Don't go anywhere. We're really going to get into the meat of this Tuttle-Newcastle matchup when we come back right after these commercials. Hey, Facebook, thank you for watching. Hope everybody is enjoying the show. We're halfway done now, so when we come back from these commercials, we're going to get real into the football. We're going to talk about this matchup and who your boy Luke Young thinks is going to be the eventual victor tonight. So stay tuned. Hey, Facebook, while I'm thinking about it, after tonight, this game day show will be put on YouTube on GSN Sports and Talk on YouTube.com. If that you didn't catch that, it's GSN Sports and Talk on YouTube.com. I've got a giant playlist that goes through all our game day shows, and you can be sure that this video will be taken right off of Facebook and put on there. So if you missed it and you want to go back and hear what we were talking about, YouTube.com, GSN Sports and Talk, you can see our commercials, you can see our game videos. You can see everything we're doing in between. So remember that, and we'll catch you after this break. Hey, we are back live from Tuttle, Oklahoma on the Friday night football game day show. Broadcast live, by the way, from Taco Mayo, locally owned and operated, Oklahoma owned and operated since 1978, and a great venue for tonight. They keep bringing me free stuff, y'all. I don't know what to do with all the stuff they've got me. Sopapilla bites. I've got a blue raspberry slushy and a tiger's blood slushy, which I've never actually had tiger's blood slushies, if you can believe it. I always go for actually the blue raspberry or a strawberry. I've never had tiger's blood, so I'm going to try that here in a second. We're going to see how good it really is, if it's worth all the hype it gets. But these are, and I think I've got this right, Frazel slushes. It's called the Slush of Legends. Doesn't matter what you ordered, Frazel is going to complement it perfectly. One sip of Frazel will transport you to brain freezy heaven. I'm not sure if I want to go to brain freezy heaven. Maybe the biblical heaven, maybe, but not. I don't know about brain freezy, but we'll see. We'll see. Hey, so thanks to Taco Mayo, 101 East Main Street out here in Tuttle, our venue for the show tonight. Call them 405-381-3124 or go to the website, tacomayo.com. Check out their menu. Say hi if you stop by to their friendly staff. It doesn't get any better than this, folks. But here on the, I guess technically segment number 3, on the second half of our show, we're going to really get into the meat of this Newcastle-Tuttle matchup. Okay, we're going to go deep into the matchups, the offensive game plans, what each team I expect to bring out of the gates tonight, and which team I think is going to have the best chance to get the victory. But before we do, thank you to Taco Mayo one more time and General Manager. They have hooked me up perfectly. And let's get into it. Let's test this thing out, okay? Blue raspberry I already know is good. Yeah, it's good. Here's tiger's blood. I don't even know what flavors make up tiger's blood. And we're live on Facebook if you want to see me try this. Again, never had this, so let's see. Oh, okay, that's not. Oh, I don't even know how to explain that taste. It's like, I was expecting it to be more tart, more sour, but that's very, almost sweet. Is it cherry? I think it's cherry. That's not bad. No, that's not bad at all. Tiger's blood smoothie, huh? I'm going to have to remember that and get that one next time. Very good. And thanks to Taco Mayo for bringing them out for me. I like the blue raspberry a lot too, but Tiger's blood not bad. Okay, let's get into this football talk. So we talked about it a little bit already, but Tuttle and Newcastle playing tonight on Tuttle's home field right next door, Richardson Family Stadium. Both teams 1-0. Tuttle 4A, Newcastle 5A. Coming out here, Cruz Campbell in the victory over 5A Guthrie in Week 0 went 22 for 32 with 279 yards in the air and a passing touchdown. 5A Newcastle, however, defeated 6A Bartlesville in their own Week 0 matchup, 51-34. Their quarterback, Blake Cresswell, threw for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns. For Newcastle, Taylor Bradford and Ben Rogers were their main rushers, and their leading receiver, Caden Longman, had 141 yards by the end of the game with 2 receiving touchdowns on 7 receptions. That quarterback wide receiver connection is going to be trouble for Tuttle tonight. Cresswell to Longman is something you're going to have to look out for multiple times tonight, and I'll point it out as many times as I can. But Tuttle has from what we saw in Week 0, a mainly pass offense. Very much pass heavy. They would throw early downs, they would throw late downs, and they would run to mix it up, maybe move the chains every now and then. But while Guthrie tried to be more run, Tuttle tried to be more pass. Newcastle is kind of like the mix of both. This team can be heavy pass at times, but they're heavy run at other times, especially when they need touchdowns. They're going to give it to very strong running backs and have them just power forward into the end zone. I'm going to go through and look up their stats from that last game here too as well, but in the meantime, let's talk a little bit more about this matchup. It's a match of, again, what I said, two decently balanced, but Tuttle being more pass-heavy, Newcastle more true balance. Campbell and Cresswell are going to test each other's secondaries. It's not just one way, it's going to go both ways. Cruz Campbell, as we have seen in Week 0, has a great arm on him, but he's also very patient in the pocket. The kid is in control of the situation, extremely talented, has a great sense of the game, and seeing routes, seeing coverages, and being able to adapt in kind. As we look up the Newcastle Racer side, It's going to be my own personal first look at Blake Cresswell. Excited to see what he brings to the table. Again, that box score versus Bartlesville tells a pretty good story about the kid. So I'm expecting him to be taking shots early and taking them often, really seeing what this Tigers secondary is made up of. Because the Tigers really didn't get challenged in that Guthrie matchup. They had to stop the run. They had to stop the short pass game. But Guthrie never really got off that big play. They had almost a 60-yard run that was called back on penalties, but they didn't have a pass that hit that number, I don't think. They didn't have a pass that was really eating up major yardage, going a quarter, a third of the field. They just didn't have that night. Tuttle stifled them too much. They were too dependent on the run to get something started. Cresswell was 13 for 15. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he was 13 for 15 with a passer rating, a quarterback rating of 156.7, which was the highest on both sides and is one of the highest in the states probably after week 0. Where Bradford and Rogers are the leading runners for the majority of the snaps. Harmon Warmoth, the junior, in that Bartlesville game, had 2 carries for 4 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's the guy I say they go to when they need to power something into the end zone. The junior is another name to keep an eye on if Tuttle is going to be able to stop him in the red zone at the goal line. Tuttle's priority, I think, has to be the pass, yes, but they cannot sacrifice anything on that run defense, especially when we get deep in Tuttle territory, or else it's going to be a bad night for the Tigers. But overall, I would say these two teams are very evenly matched. This game is going to come down to who gets that one big defensive stand. I expect both of these offenses to do really well. Okay, I don't think anybody's really going to stop offenses tonight. But the team that stops them when it matters, late in the game, fourth quarter, when you're tired, when time is not on your side, the team that gets that stop on a third or a fourth down, turns the ball over, gets that change of possession, that's who's going to make the difference in today's game. That's who's going to get the victory. We got a little bit of time left here, and we've got plenty more to talk about, including upcoming schedules for these two teams again. But I'm excited to see Tuttle in week 1 officially. We got a great look at them in week 0. What we saw impressed us up in the booth, myself and Bryson both. For the Tuttle side, one of the names you want to keep an eye out for as well is Kennedy. We had Campbell, Roundsville, Lane, and Kennedy, who were those main guys for Tuttle. If they can get him started and get him started early, Tuttle's leading receiver has a very good chance to flip this game on its head and put the Tigers up way early, give them a much better shot at winning this game. If he doesn't rip off one of those big catches and runs fairly early on to set up Tuttle well, then I think then it's going to be more of what I'm expecting here, where it's a very close game deep into the night. Let me go ahead and pull up the Tuttle roster for you real quick. Probably should have done that earlier, but it's all right. Here it is for you. Okay, so Jordan Lane, one of the junior wide receiver and defensive back, is a name to keep an eye on. Of course, Cruz Campbell repping number 12. Sean Roundsville Jr. on number 27, the lead running back. And then when you're looking for the last name I just mentioned, let's go find Kennedy real quick. Tyson Kennedy, 5'11", senior wide receiver who has kind of been their go-to guy. He and Campbell have a pretty special connection. So there are 4 names you need to keep an eye on. We're going to send it to a break here in a second, and more on this upcoming Tuttle game when we come back on the Friday night Football Gameday show, hosted live from Taco Mayo out in Tuttle, Oklahoma, 101 East Main Street out here in Tuttle. Call them at 405-381-3124. Stop by. You can head through the drive-thru. You can eat in the dining area. If you do come in, you might see me. Come say hi. I'd love to talk to you. But we got to send it to a break here. I'm going to give myself maximum time when we come back after this commercials. So let's go ahead and send it off. And thank you to everybody who is watching on the Facebook as well. Thank you to everybody that has been listening on the Facebook. We are live on Facebook.com. Gospel Station Sports and Talk is the profile. I'm enjoying this show so far, so I hope everybody there is as well, whether you're tuning in from somewhere in Oklahoma or watching from somewhere else, wherever you're tuning in from. It's great. Who do you think is going to win this game tonight? Are you giving the edge to the Tuttle Tigers, or are the Newcastle Racers going to race in and steal away a victory? I personally, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into what's going on in this last segment before the people online know, I personally think Newcastle has the edge in this game. I know that's crazy to say from a Tuttle broadcast, but I'm just saying. They're close, but I would honestly give the Racers a slight edge. But I'll talk about it more when we come back. Y'all did not see that. Tell me y'all did not see that. I just spilled the Tiger's Blood smoothie all over myself. Y'all didn't see that, right? That didn't happen. It's definitely not broadcast live to the entire world or anything, right? Tell me y'all did not see that. Oh, man. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're coming out of commercial break here, so let's do this 15 more minutes here on the Game Day Show. And we are back here on the Friday Night Football Game Day Show on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk, brought to you live from Taco Mayo out in Tuttle, Oklahoma. And whether you're listening online or watching on the Facebook, we want to thank you for tuning into this Game Day Show. Kind of tough doing it alone, I'm missing Bryson Colwell, my co-commentator out here, but we've gotten through it just fine. It's been a pretty fun show, I think. Go to thegospelstation.com and scroll down and click on Sports and Talk, and that'll take you to the online stream on Live 365. The Facebook account is Gospel Station Sports and Talk. It's a page. You can find everything we're doing there as well. Coaches shows, games, shows like this, talk shows, and everything in between. And the YouTube is GSN Sports and Talk. We have an archive of everything we put out there. Media days, coaches shows, games as well, commercials, anything you could want to see from the Gospel Station Sports and Talk, it's there. But one more big thank you to Taco Mayo before we head into this final segment. They're at 101 East Main Street, right next door to Richardson Family Stadium here in Tuttle. Open 10:30 a.m. to midnight tonight. So stop by after that football game. Get yourself some good Mexican food. You can also pick up one of these smoothies, which I've been tasting. The Tiger's Blood was pretty good. But blue raspberry is hard to beat. I got to be honest with you, folks. It's hard to beat. At least for me. Call them at 405-381-3124. Go to the website tacomayo.com. They accept credit cards, contactless payments. So thank you to them, and thank you to Ms. Inez for helping us put this show on. Okay, folks, well, we have made it. Final segment. Let's talk about the conclusion of tonight's game. Who has the advantage between the Tuttle Tigers playing at home and the Newcastle Racers on the road? Believe it or not, I would actually say for how similar these two teams can look and how tough I think this game is going to be, I'm actually going to give a slight, very slight advantage to the Newcastle Racers, and it has to do in large part to their Week 1 matchup. Newcastle played a Bartlesville team that is pretty similar to what Tuttle brings out. Okay, I'll show you here. Since Tuttle is slightly more pass heavy, they got a lot of work in against a defense that wasn't meant to guard them. Frankly, Guthrie just wasn't built to guard Tuttle's wideouts. They just weren't. It's just the fact. Newcastle, however, playing Bartlesville, faced down an extremely pass-heavy offense. Bartlesville threw for almost, I believe, 400 yards in the air. It's a crazy stat. That team passed the ball, and Newcastle beat them. So Newcastle has a lot of experience already guarding really talented receivers, guarding especially deep ball threats. Okay, and I think they're going to have an easier time against Tuttle's, not an easy time, but an easier time against Tuttle's wideouts than Guthrie did. However, that is not to say that Tuttle can be completely counted out. Of course, we've got a strong run game as well, and starting quarterback Cruz Campbell has shown his, seniority, his maturity in the pocket, his ability to command a game. So although they're playing at home, I'll go ahead and give the Racers a slight advantage. But again, whichever team wins it, they're not going to win by much more than one possession, I don't think. Maybe they get 10. Maybe it's something like that. But I expect both teams to be in the 20-point range. I expect both of them to have some pretty long offensive drives. But to circle back to what I said earlier, it's going to come down to that one key stop late in the game. That's going to be the difference to me. Both teams are rolling out highly talented personnel. Campbell, Roundsville, Lane, Kennedy for the Tigers, Cresswell, Bradford, Longman, Schumann for Newcastle. These guys, these teams are stacked. And Newcastle playing in a 5A division that also has a team we mentioned earlier, Carl Albert, they're going to have to be stacked if they want to make a real run in the playoffs and make real contention for the state title. All right, but looking in at finally some of the stats from these Week 0 games, Tuttle has to bring the same run defense to this game they did against Guthrie. Newcastle cannot have 2 or more touchdowns on the ground if Tuttle wants to win. Guthrie took a few long shots, but Newcastle will likely take a lot more. Kennedy had a 50-yard catch against Guthrie, and that's what they're going to need a lot of, big plays like that to take chunks out of the field. But Longman had a 65-yard catch against Bartlesville for the Racers. Slowing him down and slowing down that passing game is going to have to be a priority. Overall, I think Newcastle and Tuttle both have a lot of positives coming into this game. I don't see very many big flaws in either of these teams going into week number 1. I think the matchup between these two games are going to show us more about who they are later on this year than who they are right now, if that makes sense. Okay, we're going to see a lot about who these teams can be at the end of the season rather than who they are at the beginning and what they might need to work on. I don't even know if that point makes sense, but I know what I'm trying to say, so I hope you guys do as well. Tuttle's next game after this is on the road at Noble on the 12th. The kickoff is at 7:30 p.m. 2 home games to start off the season is always nice, but it's only a matter of time before you head on the road. We'll be out there broadcasting that game as well. So tune in right here on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk to catch Tuttle football next week. Bethany will also be back as well. John Hageman and John Campbell will be out there calling that game. I think that one's at home. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I believe they travel back home. So there's my conclusion. I'd say Newcastle has the very slight edge, but I think this is going to be a close game. Stick around. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. tonight. In just a little bit over 2 hours, we'll have a pregame show beforehand starting at, say, 6:30. I'll be out there doing that one as well, and then we'll get into the actual game, and we'll see if this prediction pans out the way I think it does. I'm very excited. I got to just say that right now. I'm very, very excited. Cruz Campbell versus Blake Cresswell, 4A Tuttle, 5A Newcastle. But if you want an official score prediction, I'll go ahead and say expect something along the lines of a 35-31 victory. Yeah, that feels about right. Both teams kind of hitting that high mark. I think the offenses are going to march. Give me Give me currently Newcastle with the slight edge, winning by a little bit more than a field goal. But that's my official prediction if you want to count it. I didn't do a good prediction in week 0. I got to remind you there. My prediction did not pan out in week 0. I thought Guthrie was going to play them a lot closer than they did. But I very much expect Newcastle to play this Tuttle team very close. Overall, I hope to be wrong. I think this can go either way. So you'll just have to stick around and find out. And you can come back afterwards and tell me if my prediction was amazing or if my prediction was terrible, which probably terrible, but that's just how football goes, right? I was hoping Dallas would win against Philadelphia, and we all know how that went. But a reminder, some of the teams from around the league playing. You've got Mustang facing down Yukon, Carl Albert in Midwest City, Bethany on a bye, but you've got Tuttle and Newcastle right here. Don't go anywhere. I've got a lot of friends that came from Newcastle, by the way, went to high school here. So I'm sure a lot of them will be watching tonight. So I got to do a good job for all my buddies that came from this place. And that takes us just about to the end of our show. One more thank you to everybody who has tuned back in at 6:30 right here on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk. And one thank you to Taco Mayo, 101 East Main Street out here in Tuttle. Call them at 405-381-3124. The website is tacomayo.com. 10:30 a.m. to 12 o'clock midnight today, so they'll be open well past the conclusion of our game. So stop by and get some food after. They hooked me up well. I had the taco salad off the menu. It was very good. The slushes were good. The drinks are good. The dining area is very nice. And they brought out these little sopapilla bites, which I cannot wait to dig into when I get up to that press box later today. But thank you to General Manager Inez. We couldn't do what we do without them here at Taco Mayo. And thank you to all our sponsors who help make these shows possible. We couldn't do it without them as well. Places like Evans Hardware, Tuttle Tag Agency, M&T Septic and Backhoe, some people you'll hear on the broadcast later tonight. Couldn't do it without them, and we couldn't do it without you guys. So let's, before I sign off, you know what? Why not? Let's take one more look at that game changer and see if we've had any score updates from back in Bethany on that softball tournament. It looks like, pull it up here. It looks like there is not any score updates. Oh, man. Whoever's running the game changer's got to get on it, y'all. They got to get on it. So there you go. Starting either extremely late or someone working game changer hasn't been keeping up with it. But I'll keep an eye on it still, and I'll see if they eventually get that score update. But that's it for me out here in Tuttle. Again, I've been at Taco Mayo. Oklahoma owned and operated since 1978. They've got great staff here, extremely friendly staff. The food is amazing, great dining area, and it's cheap as well, cheaper than a lot of places that charge you well over $12 for a meal. Thanks to Taco Mayo. Love coming here, and we expect to be here many times in the future. Go through the drive-thru, stop inside, and if you see me out at Tuttle, say hi. I'll be happy to talk to you. But I think that about does it here. So this, for the final time, is Luke Young signing off on the Friday Night Football Game Day show on the Gospel Station Sports and Talk and Gospel Station Sports and Talk Facebook live from Taco Mayo in Tuttle. Have a great night. I will see you at the football game. Remember, 7 o'clock kickoff, 6:30 pregame show. Be there, be square. But I'll see you then. Okay, Facebook. Thank you so much for tuning into this show. I hope you guys enjoyed. There's the official prediction. I'm giving Newcastle the slight edge in today's game, but either team that wins, I think it's only going to be something around 35-31. It's not going to be much. These offenses are going to show really what they're made of. So see you then. Have a great night, and thank you for tuning in. It really means a lot.